I'm Elliot Kleinberg, and this is Something Went Horribly Wrong, a blog about bad writing and how to fix it. Segment 53, Anachronisms, Part 2. Now, last time we talked about words that refer to items or practices that are anachronisms. Here's more, all of them directly related to technology and electronics. Hanging up the phone, putting the phone back on the hook, ringing off the hook. Now, in the early days of telephony, great word, a telephone consisted of a box mounted on a wall and an earpiece connected by a cord that lay on a hook fitted with a spring. Lifting it activated the telephone line. The user then was connected to an operator who manually connected him or her through a giant switchboard. The person disconnected by laying the receiver back on the hook, thus hanging up the phone. Dialing the phone. Now, phones morphed from the box and earpiece to a desk set like this, in which the handset, earpiece and mouthpiece together, lifted and went against your face. A side note, these handsets were incredibly heavy and were quite popular and effective weapons in domestic homicides. Yeah. Now, automation had eliminated the need to have a human operator connect the call for you. Instead, phones used what now would be considered Neanderthal technology, but which at the time was quite groundbreaking. The phone had a dial. It was a plastic or metal ring on a spring with 10 circular openings and a stop. You stuck your finger in one and turned the dial till you hit the stop. As the dial spring returned to its normal position, it made clicks equal to the hole. Stick your finger in the 5 hole, turn, let it go, and as it returns, you hear 5 ticks. So did the phone system's electronic brain. You've dialed 5. You move the dial 7 times, 10 for long distance, and it dials the number. Now, phones later went to the 10-button beep, beep, boop keyboard, which cell phones lovingly have graphically recreated. Next, tune in for tonight's game. Don't touch that dial. Change the channel. The original television stations broadcast on a range of frequencies set aside by the government. Transmissions were carried in those slots in the atmosphere, which became known as channels. Most towns had 3 local stations, and to get them, you turned a big dial manually on the set. The numbers ranged from 2 to 13. There was no channel 1. This was VHF, very high frequency. Soon a second set of channels appeared. It was UHF, ultra high frequency. It originally went from 14 to 83. Now, early remote controls sent a signal to a motor in the set that physically turned the dial. You actually could hear it whir. Electronic tuning made the dial obsolete, and the advent of cable television made the channel number superfluous, but TV stations are heavily invested in branding themselves through their channel numbers, and so they make sure those numbers are still promoted. So loyal viewers, they can talk to the remote and tell it to switch to cable position 1037 so they can watch the local news on Channel 4. Next, wiring money. Well, when the telegraph was an important means of communication, banks would transfer money by sending telegrams. Nowadays, it's done in the blink of an eye via email or an app. No wires. But at last check, you can still do it via Western Union. Next, ticker tape parade. In the late 1800s, Wall Street investors got a breakthrough device. Previously, messengers literally ran them the latest stock information from nearby brokerage offices. A new machine was fed by telegraph lines and printed out on a roll of 1-inch wide paper ribbon. It printed out the latest on stocks, volumes, prices, changes. The tick, tick, tick of the typing gave the machine its name. An aside, one of our loyal readers, Dr. Baruch Kahana, asked about the usage of uptick instead of increase. Yep, it's the ticker. Now, electronics had replaced the ticker by the 1970s, but TV business programs still honor it with that crawl along the bottom of the screens. Lower Manhattan historically has hosted parades. In October 1886, during one honoring the dedication of the Statue of Liberty, Wall Street businessmen spontaneously tore up used ticker ribbons and flung the shreds out their windows. A tradition was born. Office workers now toss out the contents of their office shredders, but the nickname Ticker Tape Parade continues. Next time, your government at work. I'm Elliot Kleinberg. Visit www.ekfla.com. That's ekfla.com.